So now we know the NHS will get a real rise in its funding. It is about as small a real rise as I think the government could really get away with and still claim they'd fulfilled their pledge. It's actually 0.1% increase each year on average over the next 4 years. So in some sense it doesn't look very generous, but in other ways it does. Of course, other spending departments are taking very big hits in terms of their real cuts in their spending. Now, the only other thing to say about this level of funding historically is that there's been no period like this in the history of the NHS when it's had such small increases in its funding. Some of the detail, well, we know that the revenue funding for the NHS is actually going to increase more than the overall funding. It's going up by about 0.4% each year on average over the next 4 years. The capital budget, on the other hand, is taking a big hit. It's going to reduce by something like 17% in real terms over 4 years, and that's equivalent to roughly 4% cut in real terms each year. Now there's more detail as well as you peer into the figures, of course. Social care is going to get some money in two different ways. There is a grant known as the Personal Social Services Grant. It's around 1.3 billion this year. That's going to be transferred to local authorities, and it's going to be increased not only in line with inflation over the next 4 years, but the government are going to put another extra £1 billion in to that grant. So that's going to help bolster social care services. But on top of that, the NHS is going to be spending some of its money jointly with local authorities on social care, and that adds up to an increase of about £1 billion as well. Now, we know local councils are facing a reduction in their grant from central government of something like 28% real reduction over 4 years, so this is vital money for social care. It is still relatively small compared to the whole budget on social care, but I think in these circumstances any extra money is welcome. Now, there has been some quibbling about whether this all adds up to a real rise or not, and has the government fulfilled its pledge. I think in the end it leaves the NHS exactly where it thought it would be and what it's been planning for, which is effectively no real rise over the next few years, or a marginal real rise, and it leaves the NHS still facing its productivity challenge. If it wants to meet growing demand, if it wants to cover some increases in costs, and also, importantly, if it wants to meet its aspirations for improved quality in healthcare, then it's facing over the next 3 years a productivity challenge amounting to around £20 billion perhaps. Now, this spending review is actually over 4 years, so that productivity challenge really should be extended, so we may be looking at another £4 billion on top of that. So that's the value of the improvement it needs to be going for. So I think in the end the NHS has got what it expected. It's what it's been planning for the last few years, so the task ahead still remains to improve its productivity.